Let's go to Liz Kershaw, who joins us now. Big shock, this, Liz.
It is. It's always awful when you hear somebody's died, but it was so unexpected out of the blue last night, wasn't it? He was still working. So, yeah, shock. Very sad.
What do you see? I mean, obviously that shock for any of us who are listeners, but you were a colleague and, as a pro, as a fellow DJ, how would you pay tribute to him?
Well, I was a listener before I worked with him, but I was a listener when I worked with him as well, And so first of all, as a member of the audience, I'd just like to say how hilarious his programme was. I just remember a really hot summer, 1989. I was single. I was living in London, and I used to go to the park because I didn't have a garden or anything and lie with my headphones on, and I must have looked ridiculous because I'd be just rolling around on the grass laughing. All the characters. Steve Wright in the afternoon was so revolutionary in this country as far as radio was concerned. And the reason that as a professional, he had something unique was because he ignored the management. When you arrived at Radio 1, you were given a manual of how to behave and what to say and how to present a programme. And there were two rules. There was a poster on the wall that said one thought, one link, which was just keep it concise. I think that's what it meant. We weren't always sure. And the other one was that you have to imagine that you're sitting there with your headphones on, speaking to a microphone to just one person, that you are having a relationship with just one listener. And that's the magic of radio. It makes it personal. Well, he just said rubbish and he threw it out, and he'd spent time in the States and he'd heard Zoo Radio, and he filled his studio with characters and members of staff and mates, as you know. And it was just a party. And I think he really tapped into what people want from radio, especially now. Then you couldn't stream, but you could listen to CDs or albums. But he knew that the magic of radio was community, and people joined it for company. And every afternoon, millions of people, double figures of millions of people would tune in, whether they were working on a building site, whether they were driving, whether they were at home with kids. It was the go-to place. He had the whole of the UK brought together and laughing every afternoon because he did it his way.
And the longer he was there, the more people loved him because, Liz, as you will know, people love familiarity. Bosses often don't. Is it a bit embarrassing for the BBC today after, cutting his programming, cutting his hours down, that they then have to pay tribute to the genius of this man?
Well, it makes me feel sick. It's shabby. It's hypocritical. They basically, after 40 years or so, they just dumped him. New management. We're going to refresh the schedule, and they treat people like tins of beans on a shelf. Oh, that's out of life. We're going to push it aside and put something in. There was a public outcry, and I doubt that there was any follow-up, any pastoral care, any support for him. He didn't need money. He'd been one of the highest paid people on air. But, I wonder how they considered it affected him. There are some people, as you will know, for whom fame and attention and being in the buzz of it is their oxygen. And he was one of those. It was absolutely his life. I was given advice on my first day at Radio 1 in 1987. Remember, it's not who you are, it's just what you do. But there are other characters, and I would include Steve in that, who were so focused and driven, and it's their life, that it is who they are. And to take it away from somebody and then come back 15 months later when they're dead and say, we will miss Steve. He was such a professional. He was brilliant. He was the best. I just don't know how they can say that. And also, are they going to apologise to the public? Because since his last show on the 30th of September 2022, and I know there have been other changes, Ken Bruce has gone, but the station, Radio 2, has lost 1.2 million listeners, which is 8% of its audience. So people know what they like. Nobody's got a job for life. Things have to change. But I think there are serious questions to be answered. And I think I had no contact with Steve for, a few years now, but I would only imagine that it was a shock, a real shock to find he didn't have something to do and go into 5 days a week and thrill the nation every day. What a contrast.
Love talking to you, love listening to you. You know your trade, you know your skill, and that was in tribute to your friend and colleague, Steve Wright, who died yesterday at the age of 69. Thanks, Elizabeth. We'll see you here soon. Thank you.